What is going on, everybody? Let's do a mic check and make sure that everybody can hear me clearly. See how everything looks video-wise. Everything's looking good. What's going on? We'll say some hellos to my friends that I've missed you so dearly. I did not feel well last week, so I had to, last minute, pull the plug on the show. Wasn't feeling too bad. I just had a sinus thing. I didn't want to deal with it and be snotting all over the camera and sniffling the whole time. Everything looks like we're sounding good, perfect. So I'm back. I'm back in action, and as quick as I came back, I'm actually leaving on another vacation. So we'll talk about that here in a second. But we'll get into some hellos before we get our regular spiel rolling. Vector 50 is the first one in the chat room, so he wins the first guy in the chat room award for episode 18, which nets you a big hello and a thank you. Nothing else. 2000 MCR thought he was first. He was not. He got beat by Vector 5.0. Wild Horse Garage, what's going on, brother? 2000 MCR saying no PBH live last week, but the dating channel episode sure helped make up for it. I would say after we're done here, you definitely need to go to Alex's channel and hit up his dating channel after this show immediately. He's got some hot stuff going on there tonight. Renner 595959. Let's get the show started. That's what we're doing right now, brother. Bobby Wortman, what's going on? Doug Fedelkel. Hey, Doug, I need you to contact us on your order. The mid pipe is done. Nobody has them from BBK, so we're gonna get you a credit on that, man, because I'm not gonna be able to get that. Jordan Dunning, hey, what's going on, buddy? Thanks for joining us. Let's see, Jose Delgado, Mark Warren, hey, I'm early and I'm making tacos. Throw me one, brother. I'm hungry. Actually, I went to Dunkin' Donuts and that's all they had was coffee, which is kind of a throwback, but I was expecting more. Jason Freeberg, what's going on, brother? Let's see, Peyton Lucas, what's going on, man? Hopefully you got a hold of Christian on that harness you're looking for. 97 Outlaw 1 says he sounds good. I always do. And Matt Plavidal's in here as well. He's waiting on his 18-inch ponies. So, for those of you that are new, and to repeat what we do to all of you that are regulars on the channel, we are Power by the Hour Performance. We are in West Palm Beach, Florida. We are specialists in Coyote swaps and now getting into Godzilla swaps as well, and the 6R80 transmissions and some of the 10R80 stuff as well. We have crate motors, do complete powertrains. We can help you with the parts you need to get your used powertrains into your projects. We got a lot of the intel and info that you need to get the job done not only right, but get it right the first time as well. So this show is dedicated to informing people on a weekly basis, if I'm not sick or on vacation, with new product updates, with new product information, tech information to help you with your tech information through the live chat. We have a super chat that if you want to donate to the channel, help grow it, and support us, you can do that as well, but you do not have to. You can definitely hook us up and just post something up in there. There's great guys in that chat room as it is, and they might even be able to help you before I get to your question. But if you definitely need to have your answer right away and make sure it gets answered on the show, the best way to do that is through the super chat, because I miss stuff in the regular chat all the time as I'm talking. Things are going on in there and I miss it. So if you definitely need to get an answer, post it up in the super chat. Our website is pbhperformance.com. Our hashtag is pbhequipped. If you search that on Instagram or on Facebook, you will find all sorts of stuff. You'll also find it under the hashtag pbhlive as well. Did I mention our website? Yeah, our website, pbhperformance.com. Email, if you need to get a hold of us. If we don't cover something on the show, you need to have an answer, or maybe I tell you, hey, contact us. You can call us 561-737-2331. You can email us info@pbhperformance.com. I get asked all the time about hats. I'm wearing a special hat tonight, one of my favorite ones with the blue, but we do have hats for our viewers. They are back in stock. I owe a few hats to guys. There's one that's paid and already have a label for that's going out tomorrow, and a couple of emails I need to get some payment in. They are $25 each, shipped to you, continental U.S. We have them in gray and in black. Gray and black. Ghosted out. If you want to get a hat, you're going to want to email me directly. That is my email on the bottom of the screen right there. It says frank@pbhperformance.com. This email is strictly for hat sales. The only way to get a hat is to email us, frank@pbhperformance.com. You will not find these on our website. Do not find it online anywhere or any the back page websites or on the dark web. These are only available here through that email address itself. I'll send you a PayPal link. You'll pay for it, and then I'll ship it to you. So, with all that done, hopefully everyone is doing well tonight. We'll make sure we don't have any other questions. No, I did not have coronavirus. I did not have COVID. I did not have the Chinese virus or the Wuhan virus. I just had a sinus infection, and it just lingered for like 4 days. I never even had a fever. It just, Monday I just felt off. Tuesday I had runny nose and all this weird stuff going on, which is super uncomfortable when you're trying to talk on the phone and work, and it's hot in the shop and everything, and you're right here on the counter. Then on Wednesday I was like, you know what, not going to take any chances, stay home. I stayed home all day, relaxed, tried to rest. Wasn't able to. When I finally did feel a little bad, it was already time to get ready for the show, and I was like, dude, I can't hop on. I'm at home. I don't have any of my gear, and just called it at the last minute, which I know was a little unfortunate, but we're here again. So now I'm feeling better. I was feeling better by Thursday. Friday I was in the clear, just cough, that kind of stuff. But now that I'm back. Unfortunately, the timing is a little rough because I leave tomorrow for a nice week-long vacation in Key Largo for our lobster season down there. I've never done lobstering, but we're going to go down there with some friends that go every year and join up with them on their boat, and I don't even need seafood, so I'm bringing steaks, but there'll be plenty of lobster down there for me to try, I guess, and see if I like it. I'm not a big seafood guy, but I'll eat scallops and stuff like that. Nothing too crazy. But that's where I'm going to be. I'm thinking I'm going to bring my laptop. I'm going to try to do a mini broadcast from either Key West or Key Largo next week. If I don't, I'll make a decision early in the week, and I'll post it up on YouTube and on our social media. I may move the show to Thursday night because I'll be back in town by Thursday. So keep an eye out for that so you don't miss anything. We have been really, really busy here in an aspect that we haven't been busy in a while, in the shop. We've kind of gone away from doing a lot of installations and so forth, and we wanted to zero in on using our shop and our facility in its diminished capabilities right now, because we're using a lot of it for warehousing and shipping of engines and stuff like that, to just do research and development stuff and then video-based stuff. And we've had 2 projects back to back. One was a 55 F100 owned by Gary Klug that we released a dyno video and an install video on his cooling system. And the other one that I have under the knife, if you haven't been watching our Instagram and our Facebook, is Denny Sullivan's 01 GT. We've been mentioning Denny's car for a while because it was coming in for the Edelbrock 2650 supercharger, and it got that, or we're getting that. It's getting a T56 transmission. So I've been videotaping and chronicling all that to do a nice big 20-minute install video with some tech tips and so forth. Things to look out for and fitment stuff that's related to Coyote swaps. A lot of the stuff that's going to be in that video, even though it's an 01 GT, it basically applies to anything at 79 to 04. Gary's truck was unique because Gary's truck was Coyote swapped back in 2017. And here it is just now getting the finishing touches, and a lot of stuff has changed with from 17 to current production. A lot of parts have come out, and the way things were being done back then aren't exactly how we have more options now, and we'll talk about him in a second here, because we definitely cleaned up a lot of his cooling system stuff and his power steering reservoir. We got it tuned, and he loves the truck to the point where now he's a little bit more power hungry and wants to do some more mods to it. So before we get rolling with that, there is something going on in the chat here. Let's see here. Wild Horse Garage, do you have the gray hat with blue script? I'll buy it right now. Also, you ship to Canada. I think I can ship to Canada because I'm using USPS. There's a way to get it up there. I'm not sure how it works out with the duty and the taxes and all that stuff. Every time we ship to Canada, it's a big mess as far as that goes. I can make it happen for you. Just email me. As far as getting a gray hat with blue, I don't have any extra. This one's fairly worn out. It's got some dirt on the inside there, so I don't want to offer you this one. I don't have any. And I just got these hats done, so I probably won't have one potentially to do for a long time. So, unfortunately, gray or black. Sprayer black is all I can offer you for right now, especially to get it up to you in Canada, I would say. And don't get on his case, guys. He's just asking a question. Don't get on his case. It's all good. Yeah, everybody's chopping over. All right. So anyway, we'll get to Gary's truck here. Now, Gary's truck, Jose, first drinks on me. Thank you very much, my friend. I'll do that. We got plenty of booze going down there with us, so we'll be able to definitely put that to good use one way or the other. All right, so what I want to show you here is Gary Klug's F100. Now, what I'm showing you in the frame here is a lot of the stuff we put in that video was a cooling system that had no issues. Now, they built this cooling system in line with how a factory cooling system would be. And we've recently come out with different fittings and things to help you kind of clean up the cooling system and avoid having to put degas bottles in places that you don't need, or use a degas bottle when you don't need it. A lot of the older vehicles, to reiterate, have a pressure relief cap at the top of the radiator. That's how the older cooling systems work. It's essentially how a Coyote cooling system works as well, but the radiator doesn't have a pressurized cap from the factory. So they build it into the coolant expansion tank, or the degas bottle as they call it, to get rid of some of that air, recirculate the coolant, make sure it depressurizes, get it out of the way so it's not blocking any coolant flow. So when they built Gary's truck, they incorporated a Moroso degas bottle coolant expansion tank, and it's got a pressurized cap. Now, if you look at the radiator, it's got a pressurized cap, and it's got a coolant recovery tank. Which one's higher? Well, the radiator one's the highest. It's the highest point of the cooling system. That means you don't need the expansion tank. It's not needed at all in this case. Does it work like this? Yes. Could you build your vehicle, your Mustang, your F100, any of that stuff like this? Yes, of course. Is there anything wrong with that? No. As long as it's not leaking and it's not overheating, it works. But it's not efficient. You got it in all the cooling, or excuse me, in the control packs, you get a coolant expansion tank. And guys, I see a lot of guys, especially with Fox bodies, they're wedging this thing in there. And they're mounting it between the radiator and the engine in this Fox body engine bay. And it's taking up a lot of space that you really don't have to take up. Especially because in a Fox body, all the way through to 95, you've got a pressurized cap on your radiator, which is the high point of the cooling system. So you don't have to install that. You don't have to run all those hoses. If you want to clean it up really easily, we do offer our heater tubes to make it easy, so you can get rid of some of the clutter as far as on the hot water tubes that are located on the engine itself. Let's see if I can find that photo. Okay. As you can see here on the screen, you'll see he's got his factory hot water tube. They used his factory heater hoses, then they unioned them to some universal hoses in the back, and he has an engine cover, so it covered all this stuff up. But when they did that, they were incorporating this custom brass knuckle to get a water temp sender port for his aftermarket gauges, which aren't available for CAN bus integration. And then they ran everything over to the degas bottle, then up to this and that, and it's 10 pounds of shit in a 5-pound bag, and you don't need to do it. So obviously, being a big fan of efficiency, we decided to go ahead and get that off the truck and get our hot water tubes on there, and then redo his heater hoses so that we can build in a bypass that he was missing, which is important because he has aftermarket heater and AC in his aftermarket vintage air system. When you're not using the heater, it stops flow between the heater tubes, which basically is eliminating flow from those two ports, which from the factory, it doesn't do. And Ford Racing themselves has reported to say that that could cause overheating or higher temperatures, which is basically overheating. So there is a bypass that Vintage Air makes, which we point out in the YouTube video you can watch, and you'll see once we show you how we routed everything, how that helped clean things up, and how we had to move both the heater hoses over to the passenger side of the engine. So here you see what we started with. We had that brass knuckle that we're going to get away. I mean, they literally even had to ground that to make it work. So there's 2 wires going to it. It's just, luckily it wasn't too visible when it was installed, so it wasn't that much of an issue. But once we showed it to the customer, he's like, yeah, if we can get rid of that, let's get rid of that. Let's see here. Here's another view from the top, from the front. You see that brass knuckle coming off that forward port of the heater tube on the driver's side. You got the factory heater hoses. Both of them are being used. The restrictor. You can see the restrictor in the passenger side heater hose. That's that little metal band before the hose clamps going back. That is where the restrictor is. Now, when you use our hot water heater tubes, you don't need to put that restrictor back in your hose because we just basically mimicked that restriction in the passenger side tube. So all you have to do is put a heater hose on, it's 5/8 and roll. The driver side one, we just did a product update and it's available now in both 5/8 and 3/4. So in case you have a 3/4 port on your heater core, you can run a 3/4 hose, which we include 3 hoses in our heater hose kit, 2 5/8, 1 3/4. You can make everything work together. So yes, this is what we kind of started with. Let me trigger through some of these photos and find the finished stuff. Of course, it's not working. Let's go to Gary. Let's show slideshow 2. Okay. Let's show slideshow 2. And it's not working. Now here we go. Here we go. Now we got some action. All right. So this is what we ended up with when we were done. And we did do some other updates to his power steering reservoir, which I'll cover here in a second. But you'll notice now, heater hoses. We ended up selling him 2 sets of our heater hoses because to make it look clean, we wanted to make sure that we had as little amount of unions in the way. So we ended up selling him a second set of hoses so we can get a second set of 5/8 hoses. And that's why you see basically nice and smooth 90-degree hoses coming back, and that is the bypass there on the passenger side that you see all the hose clamps on. And then his heater core, the way it's positioned and where it's positioned, it makes sense to come out the back of the engine, across the firewall, and then into the heater core tubes themselves. Well, the only way we're going to do that is with 90s, and we didn't want to put a union back there really close where it's visible. So we just sold them another set of hoses. Didn't cost them a whole lot of money, and we can run them basically in reverse. We supplied those hoses in our kit so that the 90-degree is easier to install on the hot water tubes. In his case, he needed them up front and he needed them in the back as well to make sure the installation looked nice. So it is an option to buy multiple amount of hose kits from us to make this happen if you see it so fit in your build. But you don't have to do it, especially in a Fox body where the heater core is more centrally located. You don't really need to do all that stuff. You can just run the hoses back and connect it. So overall, big upgrade because you don't have that brass knuckle anymore. It looks good even without the engine cover on there. Let me see if I can find a picture of it with the engine cover on. Okay, here's engine cover on. Now you don't have any of those hoses going up the front. Nice and clean coming out the back. Bent right into the heater core. Really clean installation. Now it just makes sense now. It looks more closer to the caliber of the truck itself. And now you see that the degas bottle is gone. So when you're looking at his engine bay, you can zero in on what you want to look at, which is the engine and the paint and the coil covers that we made him. The truck is called Old Blue. That's the thing. That's what he wants you to look at. That's the highlight. If we can get rid of some of the clutter in the engine bay, it's just going to help do that. So came out really, really nice. Now we also did something for him. Let me see if I can cycle through and find the photos of his old power steering reservoir. Let's see here. Let's find that picture real quick. Let's turn this off, turn that one on. And okay, here we go. So originally, you see his air box here. Now they did a nice job building an air box for his cold air intake. Nice and sealed. It doesn't get hot. No high IATs to report. But you see that they mounted this power steering reservoir, another Moroso piece, and I'm pretty sure that's an 05 to 10 power steering reservoir. And it works. Again, I preface this all the time. There was nothing wrong with what was going on there. Really, aesthetically, all is what we're upgrading and getting rid of some of the clutter and some of the stuff that didn't need to be there. That power steering reservoir, you can put that in the bed of the truck, on the hood. As long as there's gravity feeding the power steering pump, it'll work. There's no issues. You do not have to do it with our products. We're never going to say that. We're never going to drive you to think that way. But there is a cleaner, easier way to do it in that sense. if with those parts are available. And again, these guys that built the truck, they didn't do a bad job. Truck made it all the way to now. No issues with power steering or cooling. So, we're just, again, addressing some aesthetic things for Gary. So this was his old power steering reservoir. Let me see if I can find. There's another photo of it there. You can kind of see it hanging off in the corner. And the hose kind of seen off the driver's side here, coming down and like behind, in front of the headers. Everything was just exposed and ready to go. So we removed that stuff, and we installed the Midway Mustang power steering reservoir bracket. Now in this project in particular, we could get away with that because we have room on the aprons. We have room off the engine for us to mount that reservoir. In a Fox body, there is room. It's a little bit tighter. On a new edge, like Denny Sullivan's car, I can't do this because typically you leave that little power distribution block in front of the driver's side strut tower where a lot of the electronics gets their juice, and they're going to occupy the same space. So you don't have the luxury on a car like that. So measure and look at the fitment of these things. If you think it'll fit in your engine bay, it'll definitely help, especially with our speed drive where the power steering pump is. Literally, the reservoir will be right above it, and it'll be a nice short hose. If you're using our AN relocation fitting, even easier. We make the hose for you. Comes with the AN fitting on it. You cut it to length, connect it to the reservoir, attach it to the power steering pump. You're done, and you just fill it back up. Your return line coming back from your cooler or your rack connects to the other port on the reservoir. Done. If you want to get really tricky with it, and you know how to cut and smooth and polish, you can take that reservoir. There's a little side support bracket that Canton puts on there for the 96 to 04 cars. Cut it off, grind it smooth, and repolish the tank. It'd be perfect. So here, like I said, is the Midway Mustang bracket. The Midway Mustang bracket, we offer it in our catalog. You can get it on our website. It bolts up where the old engine lift brackets go. So once you remove your engine lift brackets, those two holes are there. It bolts in there with a little spacer behind there to make sure it's nice and even. And then we include a nut and bolt kit to attach the reservoir, or any reservoir really, to the bracket. Now it's designed specifically for the 96 to 04 tanks. So you can use the Canton one that we offer. You can use a stock one from your donor vehicle. If you have one, 96 to 04, you can even go on Amazon and there's a cheap knockoff for like 40 or 50 bucks that's fully polished. They all work. None of them are AN fitting on the bottom, so if you want to put ANs, you're going to have to cut them off and weld those in. But that is the Midway Mustang bracket. And I'm going to show you what it looks like installed with the reservoir on there as well. Here you go. And we kind of poked through this picture earlier, but that's what it looks like installed. And you can see it worked great in his engine bay. He didn't have any collision with frame rails, aprons, none of that stuff. And it puts some of the bling on the engine. The aprons on these trucks, if he wanted to, he can really smooth them out and paint them. Now he's got nothing mounted on there. And you don't have to worry about trying to figure it out. Bolt-on, simple installations. The only reason it took us a day or two to get them done is because I had to film and photograph and do all that stuff slowly. So this is stuff that you can knock out on a Saturday, maybe with 2 to 3 beers. 6 beers. 6 beers, a Saturday, and a fight with a wife. You can get all this done. Maybe get upset with a neighbor, too, while you're at it. Do all that stuff on a Saturday. So, yeah. Overall, this is what the engine bay kind of ended up looking like. Here's a picture of it with the reservoir, the degas bottle removed, engine cover on there, power steering reservoir in place. A lot less stuff going on up front. It simplified the installation. If you really wanted to go crazy, I think, yeah, if you look back on the firewall, they mounted the fuel filter on the firewall right below the pressure regulator. All that stuff could be relocated under the truck if you wanted to get rid of that. And he could really, simplify the engine bay fairly easily. So that is Gary Klug's truck. Now Gary, we also did a dyno session with him, and the truck did really, really well. We have a dyno video for him, and it's an F150 Gen 1 motor with a 6R80. The truck itself, obviously, I think those trucks in the factory only claim to make like 360 horsepower. Ended up making like I want to say it was like 350 or 347, the rear wheels. It's got stock Mustang Gen 1 exhaust manifolds, crossover pipe, and some side exhaust, some dumps, all 3-inch. It's got a 6R80 in it. I think it's 331 gears in the back. It's on 93 octane. It's got a little 3-inch intake pipe. Nothing really there to boost performance other than tuning the cold air kit, maybe the exhaust manifolds, which aren't really long tubes at all. So he can very easily put an 18 manifold on it, pick up another 10-15 horsepower there. You can put long tubes on to pick up maybe another 5-10 horsepower conservatively there. And if you wanted to, change the camshafts, change the cams. We can get this thing a lot closer to 400 horsepower on our dyno. Our dyno isn't the end-all be-all. There's different dyno numbers for everybody in different facilities, but it did really, really good. So it did very, very well. He's very happy with the truck. This thing chirps on the shifts. It rips down the road. It doesn't weigh anything. It's got no weight in the back. He's got some upgrades to do to it now. Rear suspension. He's got to get some 4-link or 3-link stuff going on back there. It's multi-leaf right now, so this thing just basically bounces down the road. The front end's Mustang too, so that's okay, but he's thinking about doing airbags and stuff like that. Maybe even a blower, who knows? If he wants to do maybe a little Roush blower, Ford Racing Roush supercharger, 2.3, oil pump gears, Mustang cams. That thing, even with 8 pounds of boost, will be a hoot. I mean, it'll just fly. So we want to thank Gary we always thank Gary. He's so much fun. He always comes to the counter. It's always great when he's by here. We're going to be doing more video with him once he gets the interior done. We'll bring him back in. We'll do like an overview of the truck, the history of the truck, and basically get a testimonial from him on how his experience has been with PBH. So with Gary Klug, thank you, Gary. I'll answer some questions if you guys run into that here. We'll say hi to some people who are hopping in. Daniel Green has fired off a question in the super chat. It says ported 18 or ported GT 3500 new model must be coming out after the mock. Better on a Voodoo swap. Well, man, I would have to say that a ported GT 350. If you got a Voodoo, you probably already have the intake. I don't think there's much to be gained by going to an 18 GT intake. My impression of the GT 350 is that it is basically as close to a Cobra Jet as you can get. So you might as well use the GT 350 intake, especially if you already have it. If you want to get it ported, go ahead and send it out and get it ported, or go to Harbor Freight and get one of those little sanding discs and do it yourself. But I would say GT 350. Now, if you're doing a Voodoo swap, you got to be careful what computer you're using and who's tuning it. Make sure that you have the right throttle body for your swap, because I'll have to check with Alex. I think he hopped in here a second ago or whatnot, but the tuning might be a little tricky as far as getting the GT350 throttle body squared away with the GT computer. You may have to get an adapter. I think Blowfish Racing makes it, that allows you to mount a GT throttle body on there to make sure that the tuning is straight. That may not be the case. If you're using the GT350 computer, you're a little bit closer, but I'm not sure on the wiring and so forth. I'll have to double check on that. Maybe I'll do that on the next show. We'll talk about Voodoo swaps. Voodoo swaps. Voodoo swaps. Why does that sound like a taco stand / strip club? All right, so let's see here. Got some paid questions. There is some cool stuff. Says Frank, please up the audio. I'm deaf as hell from listening to coyotes howl all night long. Huh. Well, I got it maxed on my end, buddy. I'll give it a little bit of juice here, just because you asked nicely. Let's see here. Back to the chat. I never liked the idea of a pressurized cap that low, like showed on the expansion tank. Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit close. Even on some of the radiators, seemingly it is a little bit close, but it works. I mean, my Fox body is a great testament to that. It's got a Fox replacement radiator, and it's got a Coyote, Gen 1 Coyote in there, 170 thermostat. I'm using stock hoses, just cut down the length. What I did with that car, as far as road racing it, is all the testament you need to know that that works. There's no doubt about it. So, no issues going that route, even though the radiator cap is a little bit lower than, let's say, on this F100. So, Foxcast Media, Caleb, what's going on, buddy? PBH FTW, what's good, y'all? Well, I'll tell you right now, it's hot, humid down here. We just almost went through a hurricane. This is the second hurricane that's almost hit us. The first one was really, really scary a couple years ago. It was that Cat 5 Dorian. Literally, I mean, I've never thought about leaving the area. That thing was just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and I didn't know what was going to happen. And my wife works at a hospital. She's a director at a hospital, so she can't be with me during a hurricane. She's got to be at the hospital working until it's over and everything's clear, and hopefully it's not a disaster area, and then they got to stay there even longer. So I got the father-in-law, 2 dogs, and me eating Vienna sausages, Twinkies, and the sandwich cookies for however long, and it never even hit, man. And this one, I wasn't too worried. I didn't even put my shutters up, so. Let's see here. Doug just received the power steering bracket and Reservoir today. Pallet rack at work filling up with boxes from PBH. Okay, Doug, that's good news, man. I'm glad you're getting your parts there. Let's see here. We got some other stuff hopping in. Yeah, Wild Horse Garage says the bypass on the heater hose is a great idea. That's an actual vintage part, a vintage air part. They came up with that, and we offer it in our catalog as well. The Fox body stuff, I know a lot of the guys, mainly our Fox body guys in here, are the heater core on those will flow while it's closed. So you don't have to buy that part for your heater system. It'll flow all the time. That's how the factory one works. So you don't have to worry about it on a Fox or a New Edge or any of that stuff. Nick Meyer says, what up, Frank? Nick, the truck's looking unbelievable, man. The bed looks great. I love the wood choice, the stain choice, whatever that is. Maybe you can post up in here and let us know. I'm trying to find a way to get up to where you're at, potentially, to meet up so I can do a video on that, meet you, hang out, go drink some beers, eat a hot dog, whatever. I'm trying to get up to that area. There's a couple other people in that vicinity and striking range I want to try to get to, brother. Daniel Green didn't come with one buying the engine from y'all. Okay, if you didn't get one from us, budget-wise, Daniel, get an 18 manifold. Absolutely. GT350, if you can find it and it doesn't bust a budget, go for it. GT350 will edge out the 18 in performance. Especially if you're porting them both, it'll be an even kind of shot, but I think you're going to gain a little bit more power, a little bit more torque from the GT350 intake. Or let me rephrase that. You're going to be able to keep more of your torque with that intake manifold versus the 18. But the 18, the Mustang 18 manifolds, I think I didn't lose any torque going from the Gen 1 to the 18. So it might be closer, but it might be a small margin of positive towards the GT350. But really, budget's what's going to decide that one. Because if you have the money to buy one brand new, you might as well splurge. If you have the hood clearance, get a Cobra Jet. But, that's tall and a lot more money. I think the last Cobra Jet setup I sold was like $1,800. I'd like to have one too, but holy shit. So 18 on a budget, readily available. A lot of people have it. If you can find a GT350 close to that price, pull the trigger and get it. All right. Hey, Pussy Pounder's here. Late but still here. What's up, Frank? I'm doing good, man. How's everything going in your world? Some great names. Drunk Motherfucker says, what's up, Frank? That's great. That's your name. I'm just pronouncing how you wrote it, so hopefully they don't demonetize me for that one. Let's see here. Peyton Lucas is asking a question. Do Gen 2 control packs require a TAC converter to read on a Dakota Digital gauges, or can I just hook up gauges to negative side of coil? Peyton, the only way you're going to get TAC signal through Dakota Digital is with their CAN bus box. There is no wire in the control pack to give you that signal. So you will need a converter to generate that signal to then feed the box that comes from Dakota Digital. Not the CAN bus box, but the one that has actual TAC input. So, because that box that they give you doesn't have any controls to adjust the signal. Like an old school TAC where you used to switch from 4-cylinder, 6-cylinder, 8-cylinder so it would read. It doesn't have any of those functions. So it doesn't know what's coming in. It's just a signal. You might get lucky and it'll work, but typically you need to have the TAC driver, basically, which Dakota Digital has, so does Autometer and so forth. Doug, with some channel support, any word on the hydraulic clutch setup I was emailed about? I can order it through PBH. I will since if I can order it through PBH, I will since you found the setup for me. I'll contact you this week about the mid pipe. Yeah, give us a ring, email me. It'd be best if you email me, Doug, like we have, or just respond to one of those other emails. That way I can get either Travis or Christian or Pezzo on it, since I'm going to be out of the area. As far as the hydraulic clutch setup, we did find that really nice one that goes under the dash, and we got pricing on it. But that company does not offer the slave cylinder, clutch master, the hydraulic part of it that goes down, the slave cylinder. They don't offer their own. So we're trying to find a good source for those to match the two together. I hate getting so many people involved because usually something gets missed, and it's something that we've never used ourselves in-house. So I'm not just going to pawn it off on you and hopefully it works for the best. I want to make sure that all the stuff's right, it's going to work. So I'm trying to get assurances from both people. Unfortunately, COVID. A lot of these guys don't even have the stuff in stock right now to send us. So I'll double check on that. Please send me an email on that so I can double check on that for you. Rocking and rolling tonight. Let's see here. Super Cobra Jet was a recommendation for Daniel. I agree. If you have hood clearance and you have the budget. If not, GT350 is next in line. Below that, 18 manifold. Boss intake's in there too. But Boss, again, hood clearance is an issue. And you lose some of your torque that your engine already produces. Let's see here. Nick says, feel free to come and stay, drink, and hang out for a few days. Wood is dyed black, then stained. Appreciate the kind words. Absolutely. You deserve it. The truck's beautiful. Honestly, I'd like to get some finalized photos of it and get it over to the guys from F100 Builder's Guide, Ford Era. Those Solomon's always moving around, shooting trucks. Good Guys Magazine needs to know about that truck, too. I mean, you get that to a Good Guys show. Maybe once all this stuff clears up, we can hook up at a Good Guys show. Maybe I'll do a small booth, put you in there, we'll hang out and get you featured, man. Maybe win some hardware. Blue99 says, what up, Frank? How you doing, brother? Thank you for joining us. Monty Rucker, have you read of any problems with the GPS speedometer with the Dakota Digital instrument cluster? I have not. Denny Sullivan's car is the one we tested the 94 to 04 cluster on it, and we installed the GPS on that one, and it worked flawlessly. So I haven't heard of any issues with it. The biggest issue I've had with Dakota Digital as related to speed is with the 6R80. Their CAN bus module has the ability to pluck the speed signal from the computer, so you don't need a GPS, but it's been spotty. It's like sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. We're hoping to get some of that stuff squared away with them so that it'll work every single time and not be a problem. Pussy Pounder says, we got hit with a bunch of rain from that hurricane in Pennsylvania. Are those PBH hats flex fit? The rain was a problem, but that's about all I think packed, and they are not. They are trucker. These are the Richardson 112s. So if you look up that model on their website, you can see the sizing and so forth. I've done flex fits in the past, man, and they don't fit me perfectly. My head's just inside all their sizes, so it's a little bit of a problem. Either I got to wear a small one and get a headache, or it's too big and my ears kind of flop around. I can tuck them inside of there if I wanted to. So I've always gone to these. They're affordable, and they actually are a good quality hat too. But you can check it out on their website and see what their sizing is. But it's pretty much one size fits all. Let's see, F150, S550. Frank, do you know of any Dash 8 AN fuel rails for a Gen 3 Whipple? Do you know of any? Do I know of any? Fuel rails come with the supercharger system. Maybe you're asking me because it's Dash 6. You could put a Dash 8 on it, but it may be a reducer from 8 to 6. Maybe is that what you're asking? Post it up in there and let me know. Because that's the case, it really shouldn't be a problem. We're doing that on Denny Sullivan's car. He's got the Edelbrock 2650. It's got its own fuel rails. The fuel rails are set up for Dash 6, and we're going to put a Dash 8 hose to it. It's deadhead, so it should flow plenty. The only thing I guess would be a potential issue maybe with fuel flow is if you're talking about a 1500 horsepower setup where, you know, trying to get as much fuel in there as possible and you don't want to neck it down. In that case, I'm not sure if somebody sells an upgraded or a larger set of fuel rails that you can go to ensure that it's all Dash 8 all the way through. But I would, I don't know. I'll have to dig that one up. I don't know if somebody has an upgraded site. I don't even know if that's the question you're answering, but I'm just started answering shit. When's a Godzilla motor going into your Fox body? Probably never. I don't know. I don't. If we wanted to experiment with it and get it done, I would definitely be down to try it. I don't think it would hurt me in any way other than maybe higher RPM performance. It would be a hell of a torquier motor, but as we outlined before, fitment wise, this thing's going to be a little bit of a problem for hoods, for clearance to the rack, for bump steer. The amount of modifications that may have to happen are a little. It's going in the wrong direction in a way. I mean, we're really working hard to get it in that engine bay, and at the end of the day, stock for stock, the Coyote has a lot of merit over the Godzilla. So I would still say Coyote, but Godzilla, it's not a complete slouch. It's not a boat anchor or anything like that. But you're gonna have to do some stuff and spend money in areas you're not used to spending money on. And I mean, a cowl hood might even be enough. You might need a monster cowl hood, like a weird shaped one. I don't know. We'll see. Those guys up at Team Z are doing one. I want to see it with the hood on, see how it fits, and spacing of the K member and all that stuff. It seems to me like all the Godzilla stuff, everything that Ford Racing is putting into the Godzilla launch, as far as swap, is all full race. They don't have any projects going on that I know of that are street level, 90 percentile stuff. It's all motor plate, race car, make it fit. I'm waiting on the aluminum block. I'm waiting on it's like the fact that an aluminum block is even being discussed shows you that the aim of this engine, where it's going to shine, is going to be in big power production stuff where you're not starting with a stock block to begin with, because it ain't going to do it. So if that seemingly is where everything's rolling with the Godzilla as far as development, first level development, it's all full race stuff. Let's put heads, cam, figure out an intake, put boost on. Okay, the rods and pistons fail. Let's put better rods and pistons. Oh man, let's get the weight out of it because it's too heavy. Let's put an aluminum block and let's sleeve that. What happened to just put it in a truck or a car and go and see what it does? So that's what's missing for me in the equation for this thing to be a home run. So let's answer some paid questions here. Daniel Green says 2.9 Whipple is the last goal for the project. What hydraulic set do you recommend for the 3160 trans I'm using? It's an SN95 platform. I forget the name of the company we found it. When you're doing a Coyote swap, obviously she's wide and we don't have a whole lot of room to play with. That's why you're going to use Hydro Boost. And one of the things that could be a problem with a lot of the hydraulic slave kits is if the master cylinder is on the firewall, it could potentially make contact with the engine. So the unit from Modern Driveline, the unit from McLeod, I think they're non-starters because of that reason. And we found a company that makes the entire setup under the dash, but they don't make the slave cylinder. So we got to figure out a slave cylinder and a line kit to connect the two. Once we have that, we're golden. It's under the dash. It fits well. It works with the stock pedals, and we can run it down to the clutch, down to the pressure plate where the slave is going to be. Bob's your uncle, but I don't have that combination figured out yet. But once we do, it's going to work on T5, 45, 3160, 35, 56, all of them. It'll all work. And for all intents and purposes, if you have the slave cylinder figured out for your 3160, and all you need is a clutch master, then we have what you need. So, Kimbo Slice, thank you for the support as well, Daniel. 3 times tonight. Really appreciate it, buddy. I got my control pack for my 05 GT. Thanks very much. The fuel system and PBH website work for my 05 GT. I'm thinking to put an 07 GT500 6060 behind my Boss 302. Do you know of any difference between the 2012 and the 13 Boss 302? I don't think there were many big differences between the 12 and the 13. I know at some point they removed the oil squirters. I don't know if that applies to your engine in particular, the Boss 302 setup, but I know that eventually the oil squirters went away, and then I heard they came back. But as far as rods, pistons, valve springs, those kind of things, I think it's all the same. So no major changes for sure to say. But so you got your control pack, your 05 GT. You're welcome on that one. The fuel system, the PBH on the PBH website work for an 05 GT. Yes, we do have a fuel system on there for. Do we? I think it was 07. I'll have to look at that. It's been a while since I sold one of those, but I want to say it will work because yes, we changed the fuel pump. We were doing a complete fuel hat from TI Performance, had a 255 pump in it already, and it just needed to be drilled for a bulkhead fitting. And we changed that. Now we're using the Deechworks pump that'll work in your 05 and up hat. So yes, it will work if you're looking at that kit in particular. If not, if you want some confirmation on it, info@pbhperformance.com. I'll find out for sure 110%, and we'll get you set up with it. Kimbo. Let's see here. Some other questions. Where do I email to order a hat? The email to order a hat is going to be on the screen here in 1 second. This is the email to send. This is the email address you're going to send for a hat. Make sure the subject is hat. That way I find it, I'll star it, and I'll send you a PayPal link. You'll provide me your address. We'll get the PayPal payment link out to you. You'll pay for it, and I'll put a hat in a box and ship it to you USPS. No problem. That's for Mr. Pussy Pounder. Or Mr. Pounder. Blue99, hey Frank, what happens to the Evap system on the Coyote swaps? Well, the Evap system, you're not using it. Because when you're doing a Coyote swap, unless you're bringing, over everything from a donor vehicle that's a Coyote, including the fuel tank and the evaporative emission system, which includes the charcoal canister, all the wiring, all the lines, everything, all the sensors too. Unless you're doing that into Fox or in your older Mustang or whatever vehicle, you're not going to be using any of that system. So what you end up doing is capping it off. Now, you're still responsible for venting your fuel tank. All factory fuel tanks, going back to the early days of V8s, they had vents on them. Now, they vented the atmosphere, and that's fine, but fuel vapor is more flammable than gasoline. So you don't want your gas station full of fuel vapor if the vehicle's sitting in there getting hot during the day. The less fuel you have in your tank, the more vapor it creates. So you want to make sure you're conscientious of the fuel vapor, the Evap system that basically you can build into your fuel tank. I don't think you're going to want to hook it up to the engine and try to integrate all that stuff, especially if you have a control pack PCM. That pretty much shuts all that stuff off. So we have block off plates for the intakes that have provisions for the regulator right behind the throttle body. And then you just leave it unplugged, turn off codes if they pop up, and then vent your fuel tank safely. On my car, I have an ATL fuel cell. It's got a vent. The vent comes out. I put an extra long coil of hose, and then it goes to a catch can with a filter. So yeah, it does vent vapor out, but it also doesn't splash fuel everywhere. And typically, I'm keeping that tank as full as possible to make sure I don't have a bunch of vapor in there. Because if you're in an accident, even though it's a bladdered fuel cell, you don't want it full of vapor, because if it gets punctured or creased, that's when it really blows up. So, quick, scary story about that. During the Nationals, when I ran my car at the Nationals, the Sebring, a few years ago, in some of the videos, you'll see my car just shuts off towards the end of the run. I had 2 wires going down to the fuel pump with heat shrink on the connection. No problem with 93 octane. When we switched to race gas, it ate the heat shrink up. So then I had 2 bare butt connectors loose in the fuel tank, and they would touch and arc and blow the fuel pump fuse. I almost blew myself. I almost became a jet coming down the front straightaway at Sebring, because that fuel tank was going to pop and blow out behind me. And luckily, we found the issue the night before the national race, the championship race, and we ended up putting convoluted tubing on it, and it's been fine ever since. I've checked it a few times, and it's fine. So keep that in mind. Let's see here. Let's see here. What else we got cooking in here? I have a MD Modern Driveline 1 I was going to use with the small block Ford, but don't think it'll fit with the Coyote. I don't think it will fit with the Coyote. Their placement of their master cylinder, like the reservoir piece that comes through the firewall, I think will make collision. Root beer's in the house, man. What's going on, brother? Tilton, yeah, Tilton's a really, really good bearing hydraulic slave. I know that Ram has one. Even McLeod has one. Once we have that squared away with the master cylinder, then we'll be in good shape. Yeah, Alex's show, I'm tuning into that shit tonight, for sure. Let's see here. Nick, yes. By the way, I'm not gonna read your comment, but I'm gonna verify that is one of the emails you can request that at, or you can email me at frank at hot at hotlatinnudes.gov, and you can get the same thing. Let's see here. Wild Horse Garage, what you think on porting a 1517 intake manifold? That's going to be my winter project. Pretty sure I'll pick up some ponies in RPM as well. I have a flow bench. Yeah. The Gen 2 intakes, thinking back, there weren't a whole lot of guys taking Gen 1 intake manifolds off from their Mustangs and putting Gen 2 intakes on them. I think they didn't want to deal with all IMRC stuff, maybe when it came out. And then you had the Boss 302 intakes, which you can pick up for $4.95 and they fit. So you never heard a lot of that comparison back and forth, but a ported Gen 2 intake, I mean, it shouldn't be a slouch. I think you're going to get more out of a Gen 3. So if you already have the Gen 2, why not have it and mess with it and try to perfect it as much as possible? But if you can find a Gen 3 for a good deal, it'd probably be best to put that effort into that one versus the Gen 2, in my opinion. I have a Gen 3 on mine, and I picked up quite a few. I'm making 424 to the rear wheels on E85, Gen 1 stock Mustang cams, valve springs, raced and beat up engine with long tubes in the Florida heat down here. So it's pretty respectable. Boom like the explosion in Beirut. What in the world happened over there? Wow. I've seen video of the Moab, which is that mother of all bombs. When they detonated that, it didn't look as impressive as that, man. I couldn't believe what that happened over there. That's nuts. Now, hopefully, it sounds like a bunch of people died, which is good. All right, so we'll do some product updates for you real quick. Guys that have bought the Gen 2 F150 engine harness from us, I have some information for you, and we're going to have some more information for you soon, very, very soon. There is a new note on our listing online. I want you to look at it. Once we have everything finalized, 110%, we're going to be emailing everyone who's bought one from us and notifying them of the changes that are needed. There is some drivability stuff going on, and we're working on a repair. It's all going to be tune related. So from here forward, anybody buying that Gen 2 engine harness from us for an F-150, you are going to have to custom tune the vehicle to make sure it works properly. I've always said, you doing any Coyote swap, yes, can you get away without tuning it? Okay, but you should be planning on custom tuning every Coyote swap you do, because the factory computer doesn't know what you did to your cold air kit, long tubes, what fuel you're using, injectors, pump. You want to make sure after this $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 investment that everything's right, so you don't hurt it or have a problem or have drivability issues or sit there and go, man, is that normal or not? I don't know. Get it tuned. Have a reputable tuner tune it, one that looks at data logs and verifies things for you. Box tunes are fine to start with. Data logging should always be part of the process, because we're touching way too much of the powertrain to take for granted that everything's going to be okay, everything's going to be right. There's no guarantees. A bad ground can lead to a bad day. Not tuning for a cold air kit can lean it out and lean towards a blown motor. I've had guys that forget to plug in their knock sensors. I have guys that don't have working O2 sensors. There is no code for a non-working O2 sensor or one that's trimming wrong. There's just bad drivability. And if you're not tuning it, you may not even see that to be a problem. So tuning is something you should be factoring into all your plans, no matter who you're doing it with or who's building it. Calibration and checking of the tune should always be part of it, no matter what. So, the fact that you have to make sure you make these changes that we're going to outline very, very soon is just going to be factored into the tuning you should already be doing. So, shouldn't raise the price of your budget or your swap or whatnot. Let's see here. Let's see. Juan Jimenez. Does PBH Gen 1 harness have a connector C264, the wiring for the Evap vent solenoid, and fuel tank pressure? No, it doesn't. Our body harness doesn't have it. The only one that you typically are going to have to play with is going to be the connector on the engine harness that goes, especially in a Gen 1, that's right behind the throttle body. If you're using a Ford Racing engine harness, that's a Boss 302 engine harness, and the Evap, the regulator solenoid, was back on the driver's side on that one. So you see a little connector on the driver's side between, let's say, the last two cylinders. You know, go, hey, what the hell is this for? That's for the Evap regulator, the solenoid, and you don't plug that in. So, boom. Okay, Arthur is asking what our average cost for us to do a Coyote swap into a new Edge. Back when we were doing them and quoting them and trying to get those jobs, we were labor-wise, I want to say roughly around like 12 grand, 12 to 15,000, depending on what we were doing. On a new Edge, there is some stuff you don't have to worry about. Brakes, you already have. What do you call it? Hydro boost, so we don't have to worry about doing a conversion there. Don't have to worry about redoing a bunch of suspension stuff. You do have to put a K member in it. Gauges are going to be something you have to budget for. Fuel system, also something we're going to have to budget for. Long tubes, transmission. Are you updating one? You're going to use your old 3650. 4R70W, I'd rather not use. I'd rather use somebody put a 6R80 in there and roll out with that. But that being said, go to our website, go to the instructions tab, and there is a build guide in there that you can use for that your car to show you all the parts that we offer that can help you get that swap done and planned. If you need guidance as far as finding a reputable builder, we can recommend a lot of the guys that are actually in this chat right now offer services to do swaps and have done them, and they're dealers of ours. So email us. Email me, Frank at pbhperformance.com, info at pbhperformance.com, and we can help you. We can get you that link to that builder's guide. We can get you contact information for builders. Just tell us where you're located and see who's in striking range. I know it's not great to drop your car off a state over, but a 10-hour drive, 8-hour drive, 6-hour drive isn't a whole lot to make sure your car is built right. So, and it goes to somebody who knows what they're doing. Any Boss heads for sale? I got Boss long blocks, not heads by themselves. But every once in a while we get a set of heads. I don't know how, but we get them. Let's see here. White Mare 11. Return style fuel system, Fox body stock hat replacement with a 340 liter per hour pump. 8 AN feed, 6 AN return. Enough for boost, or should I go with an 0304 Cobra tank? Yeah, 340 is going to be pretty light on fuel for boosted application. A typical boosted application, which is going to be, let's say 10 pounds of boost, PD blower, something like that. I would definitely, if you can fit a 340, you can fit a 465. That's going to get you closer to home. Don't be surprised, even with that 465, you got to put a booster pump. The 465, to put it in there, you got to cut the bottom of the hat of the hanger off. And once you cut the bottom of the hanger off, the bigger part of the fuel pump will fit. You got to get some low profile clamps, not hose clamps, because the hose clamps won't fit when you try to put it inside the tank. The other thing I'll tell you on Fox bodies, you don't have to get a 0304 Cobra tank. You can still use your Fox body tank, but you can use the Aeromoda Stealth hats. There's a flat part of the tank on the driver's side. You can drill that out just like you would on any old tank that they design it for, and they offer, which we can get you, dual 465s. They have a trifecta that's got 3 340s in it, or you can get it with 3 465s, AN fittings, and everything. So all that stuff is available to you as an option. You can put a 465 in with what you have now. You can block, basically disconnect all that stuff and just install the hanger and block off that port and drill a new hole on the other side of the tank and put something like an Aeromotive twin or triple pump hat. You can go to an 0304 Cobra tank with an 0304 Cobra style hat with 2 pumps. A lot of options there. Let's see here. Smitty Schmitz, channel support between you and Alex, all the info you could ever need from a non-Coyote owner for now. Well, thank you very much, Smitty. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for supporting both of us. And we appreciate that, man. It'll help grow our channel, man. JB, you guys helping out Adam LZ with his bar swap GT350. We did build the transmission for him. I'm not working with him directly. Christian is. And Christian is helping him with all that stuff. So I don't have the skinny on it right now, but I know we built a pretty hefty 6R80. The trick with all those Barra swaps and 2JZ swaps with the 6R80s is controlling them. If they're using the run-of-the-mill US shift stuff, I have seen a lot of guys run them, but they're using the mechanical shifting, which is fine. You can do that, but it's not the quickest way to get down the track. So I'm more worried about them getting the tuning right, because it'd be great, yeah, we build Adam LZ a badass transmission, and it smokes right off the bat. Well, if you're not using a stock computer, I have doubts that you're going to get the tuning 110% right. With the stock computer, we have a lot of factory information, a lot of a factory logic, layer upon layer upon layer of logic, worked into making sure the transmission works right from the factory. And then guys like Lund Racing and other tuners out there have worked a lot of hours and worked on a lot of vehicles to perfect the changes they make to it, and they know exactly what it's supposed to do and what it's not supposed to do. In the standalone world, it's a little bit different. There isn't as much of a wise old man factor in there, and you're not able to pay a whole lot of guys to come out and tune for you. So I hope for them that it works flawlessly and perfect with zero issues, because that's just going to make our transmission look that much better. So I did watch one of his videos the other night. It was pretty cool. I want to 2650 supercharge my swap car. Do I buy a full kit, or can I buy only what I need? Well, Jose, when it comes to that, what I would recommend doing is getting a tuner kit, depending on what blower you're looking at. For example, if you're looking at 2650, VMP offers tuner kits. Edelbrock offers Coyote swap kind of hot rod kits. Even Whipple does that as well. If you get a complete kit, my fear is you're going to pay a little bit extra potentially for injectors that you may or may not use, cold air kits that may or may not fit or work for you, heat exchangers that are specifically built for a chassis you do not have, coolant reservoirs with tabs to stuff that you don't have to attach to, but you are getting complete stuff. So you can mimic what's there and just change it out for what you need, or throw it away or sell it. If you get a tuner kit, you're going to save money on the hit, and use more budget then to buy exactly what you know is going to fit for you, or buy universal stuff that's easier to then make fit. So I would buy a tuner kit, spec out what injectors you want. You can even find them used out there, but we have injectors too. You can buy a heat exchanger that's specific to your vehicle, or to a vehicle like yours. If it's a Fox body, keep in mind, heat exchangers for 0304 Cobras will work. There's tubular, I think MAF Racing sells the tubular bumper supports. You can get something like that has tabs to even mount a heat exchanger, and they'll tell you which one will fit. So stuff like that should keep in mind, unless you have the ability to fabricate all that stuff and the time to do it. If not, you want to get more into a more bolt-in installation, do a tuner kit and hit us up, and we'll point at what stuff will work and help you get through that. But thank you for the support, brother. Root Beer, am I dumb for wanting a Mach 1 as my track car? I have a 17 with 20K left on the loan now. The Mach 1 would be a huge upgrade. Adding the coolers and other bits that come with the Mach 1 would cost money. I think so. I mean, it's always fun to build a car and make the upgrades and do them yourself, but it's cash out of pocket. If you can finance that stuff, listen, cars are a depreciating asset. Unless you got it that way, you really shouldn't be going out buying brand new cars and putting cash all day long down on them. It's going to lose money. Keep that money in your pocket and go make money with it. Finance it out the door. You want to give me 84 months? Give me 84 months. I'm planning on keeping the car anyway. What's the difference? Lower my payment. I'll use that money that I'm saving and put it towards something else. Track time, tires, investments, buying another house, whatever. You have more of that money available to you. Finance the shit out of it in my respects. But I like the idea that it has all those upgrades for you, and it's not the huge ticket GT350. So I don't mind that. I don't think you're dumb for wanting to do that. I mean, what happens? Let me give it to you in this scenario, Root Beer. Tomorrow they come out with a GT350 with a DCT. It's $70,000. It has all the coolers you're talking about, all the aero, and a DCT. Would you be dumb for wanting that car? It's what you're doing with the car. Buy the best car for it. I would entertain looking at modified other cars. Maybe there's somebody out there that did a crazy build on a Boss 302 or had a PP3 car that, had it, wanted more, maybe wanted to build a race car and they didn't want to turn their street car into that. But there's a lot of wanting and waiting and weeding, and it's just, it could be a problem trying to get something used. You really got to root through the things, and you don't want to. Buying used track cars is an art form. So, oh, you guys are. You guys are going back and forth. Mr. Pounder says, Frank, do you have any questions for Alex tonight? I'll see if I can post up in there. We'll see. He's still setting things up to potentially have After Hours Frank on his show at one point, so we'll see what happens. What would I need to swap a Gen 2 powertrain in a Gen 1 S197? Well, Shane, thank you for the comment. You currently what you need, and mechanically, you don't need a whole lot. Your S197 motor mounts K-member will work. Engine will bolt in. You should be able to reuse your existing electric cooling fan. Fuel system you'll need. Headers, depending on what you get from the Gen 2. Remember, the one header on a Gen 2 has a catalytic converter welded into it, so you usually don't get that. So long tubes for an 11 to 14 car be factored in. Transmission, you're going to reuse the factory 3650, or you're going to go to something upgraded like a T56. If it's automatic, upgrade to 6R80. If you do that, 11 to 14 is a great car to pluck parts from. So drive shafts, upgraded drive shafts, cross members, all that stuff will help you get that situated. Wiring, since it's Gen 2, currently what you're going to have to do is buy a control pack and integrate it to your car and try to get things to work. That's going to be your biggest hurdle. The rest of the stuff, easy enough to figure out. There's plenty of tech to do it and know-how out there to do that. Wiring, getting gauges work and all that stuff, that's going to be a little bit more of an art form. Root Beer says he wants a manual. Well, you better hope they don't start spitting out Mach 1s and GTs with DCTs, because, brother, you're going to want one, because they're going to be about a second a lap faster than you on your best day. Unfortunately. With equal driving skill and effort, they're going to be faster head-to-head. You in a DCT car is going to be faster than you in a manual car. Let's see here. I'm using the Quantum Fox Body Fuel Hat. Have you ever seen that before? Supposedly supposed to reduce sloshing, I believe. The hat that I saw from them for their Fox Body was basically a modified. It's kind of like a custom built Fox hanger with a 465 pump and the AN fittings already on the ports coming out of it. I didn't see anything in there for sloshing. I know Aeromotive on their Stealth Phantom stuff, they give you that big yellow basket. It's like a big foam piece, the same stuff they put in fuel cells, and it's got a rubber coating on the bottom to build like a bowl, and the fuel pump sits down in there, and you measure and cut the hanger for that. That'll help with some sloshing. Hydromats will help with sloshing because basically you're just putting a big skirt down at the bottom of the fuel tank and you're sucking fuel from every corner of it. But I haven't seen the Quantum one. I'll have to look at that one up. Is it, let me know if it's for a Fox Body or whatnot. Let's see, Arthur, you got shirts in stock I propose everyone in this chat head to their website and buy a shirt to support these guys. Arthur, thank you very much. I appreciate that. We do have shirts in stock. There are Coyote swap. I was wearing one today, so it's a little sweaty. And I'll mention the shirt I'm wearing now. There. I know a lot of you guys already have this, but there's our hashtag Coyote swap shirt, and it's got our gear in the back. I've been brainstorming, trying to come up with a new design to refresh that a little bit. Tonight, myself, I'm wearing my Gapplebees at your neighborhood drag strip shirt from DBR Performance. DBR is in Tennessee, just about an hour outside of Nashville. Really, really nice shop. They do Fords, Dodge, GM, all that stuff. Really, really good group of guys, really smart, and they are dealers of ours too. So if you're in that area and you need somebody to install something or do something or even do tuning, because they work with Lund Racing, they're a great spot to hit. So the Whipple kit I have came with dash 6 and fuel rails, made for 1,000 horse, so I need dash 8 and a reducer would work, or 8 to 2-6 Y adapter. Well, if you do the Y adapter, you're deadheading each rail. That would work. I think it would work. I'll have to double check, because I don't think anybody's making Whipple upgraded rails for dash 8 or dash 10. So I'm assuming then that everyone who's got big power has the same rails you have, because those rails are specific. 4 Innovations doesn't make anything. I don't know if anybody else does that changes that. So they may just be upping it all the way to the rails. And, you know, here's the other thing. Keep this in mind. When you're doing 2-6 to a Y adapter and it's deadheaded, I don't think it affects the size of that fitting, that reducer there, that reduction is really going to affect flow. Because you're just jamming a bunch of fuel pressure in those rails, and it's taking as it goes. Years ago, one of our customers, Sergio Rojas, he was having problems with one of the cylinders always leaning out and getting hurt on his 302. And he had Fox body rails. They might have been BBK or UPR or something. And the return port, it's the return port coming out of the rail on the driver's side was located between the first 2 cylinders. And he would always say that he would go lean, I think, on the cylinder right after it. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. If you're running all this fuel pressure and the fuel's coming out of here, and it's the cylinder right after that that's getting lean, then isn't it that it's taking fuel away from it right at that point? And sure enough, we had to get different fuel rails from like skinny kid race cars to fix the problem, and he never had the problem again. In this case here, that can't happen because it's deadheaded. So that fuel log should be enough. You feed it that dash 8, you split it with the Y, connect it to the back of each rail, deadhead the front, and I don't think it's going to affect you, especially at 1,000 horsepower. I don't think it'll affect you even higher than that, but that might be a good question for Alex, maybe, or your tuner to know for sure, but I'm pretty sure you're going to be all right. Arthur wants to know, will you sell the shirt off your back? No, I'm very pale. It's really bad. And I live in Florida. The shop is literally 5 minutes from the beach. 5-10 minutes from the beach. See how pale I am? Yes, serving up the Gappetizers. I don't know when the last time it was I ate at Applebee's. I think the last time, it's got to be now 10 years I ate at Applebee's last. And I don't miss it. We used to do our Mustang Club meetings there. And they must have had at least 10 microwaves back there trying to heat up all the food before they served it to us. Everything would come out frozen in the middle. I don't know what the hell's going on. Stroked. Mr. Pounder and Stroke during here tonight. What are your thoughts about doing a C5 Corvette fuel filter regulator on a Fox body Coyote swap? I read a lot of people having no issues on an NA setup. That'll work. There's also another setup from the GM world that the regulator is built into the fuel pump housing itself. But that one I think takes a controller to make it work. it'll work. As long as it's working and there's no issues, yes, it will work. My concern is if you go boosted and you need, we usually hook up a vacuum source to the regulator when it's boosted for the fueling. In a setup like that, if you go boosted, is it potentially going to be an issue because you can't change fuel pressure, and you can't put a vacuum line to it to fluctuate fuel pressure. So, but if it's installed right and it works, no issues, there's no reason why that won't work. It's 58 psi, the same way we do it with a regular regulator. So, let it rip. Wild Willie 17 GT 800 to 1000 rear wheel. What manual would you recommend? Caliber Stage 3 MT82 or Magnum XL? Or just auto swap it, mostly street racing and with some track? I would lean towards an auto swap. I think Caliber can definitely help you out with that MT82. I know that G-Force makes a ridiculous 3550 as well. But I think overall the car is going to be quicker with an auto. And there's less of a chance of you having a bad day behind the wheel and ruining it and blowing a clutch or missing a gear or something like that. You're going to have more consistency, and it'll be quicker. It'll launch better, I would say. It's going to be less of a chore to launch. You're going to be a badass if you can launch it with a manual because it's not easy. Not everybody can do it. And with an auto, it's a lot easier and more consistent. So, ultimately, I think the better money spent is with the auto swap versus the manual, and then upgrading the manual. Because once you do get in those big, heavy-duty upgraded manuals, it may not exactly be the best feeling street car, especially with the clutch you're going to have to put in it. So keep all those things in mind. I think an auto, if it's in your budget, if you can do it, if you can find somebody to help you do it, because auto swaps on S550s aren't for the faint of heart either. So let's see here. Gabe Sanders, for an SN95 Coyote swap with the 6R80, a custom drive shaft would have to be made. So SN95, 6R80, yes. 6R80 drive shafts always have to be custom. You're not going to find in a swap from another factory vehicle the drive shaft to the spec you need. The factory 6R80 drive shafts are all two-piece, so that's all out. So all you have left to pluck from is going to be the aftermarket one-piece drive shafts. Now, we have done this before. We bought an 11 to 14 Ford Racing drive shaft, measured out what we needed, cut it down, and re-welded it, didn't balance it, and put it in our shop car. It worked. It ran 9s. We drove it all over the place, did True Street with it, no issue. If you have that skill set, that's the easiest way to do this. I would try to seek out somebody who can balance it for you when it's done, just for good measure, but that's not easy to find either because it's aluminum. Steel drive shafts are a lot easier to work with, and a lot of the local drive shaft manufacturers, unless you're lucky enough, as long as you have somebody who can work with you or somebody close to you, you can probably get it figured out. But aluminum would be easier to do as long as you can weld aluminum and cut it down. Other than that, order one. And the way to order it is, and what they're going to need to know is powertrain in the car on the ground, full weight. Once that's set, you need to measure flange to flange. That's the only way they're going to know where the CV needs to be and what length it needs to be. And then you tell them what you have for a differential. Obviously, they know it's 6R80. So my vote would be, ultimately, get one made. If you have the ability to modify stuff, you could try making one yourself. Find anybody with an 11 to 14 Ford Racing or takeout drive shaft. Buy one used if you have to. And then measure it and cut it up. Weld it up. Try it out. See if it works. If not, order a new one. I will tell you, it takes a while to get a new one. I know DSS is like a month or so. Let's see here. Yeah, I got to get going too, man. It's 8:23. I got to finish packing because I'm leaving for Key Largo in the morning. So I'm going to cut it short here. Root Beer, thank you, man. Thanks for joining us. White Mare, thanks, Frank, for the info. And the hanger is the same as the Pro M hanger, basically. Yeah, so that's just the regular caged hanger. I don't think they did anything for anti-slosh there, unless they give you some sort of foam basket or a different filter. Let's see here. Frank got it right. All right. Smitty Schmitz, what's your dream track Auto X build? Doesn't have to be limited to Mustangs. I think it'd be something Bavarian. Porsche. I like the Cayman GT4. It's a cool car. BMW M4. Really cool car. But anyway. Great show. Have a great mini vacay. Thank you very much, guys. Yes, I'm going to close it out here. Thank you, everybody, for the support. If you want a hat, please email me. The email's at the bottom of the screen. Please support our channel. Subscribe. Hit the notification bell. Make sure you hit all so you don't miss any of the stuff. That helps our analytics. It helps us get the message out to more people. That really, really, really helps us. More than you know. We're up to 4,000 subscribers on YouTube. You know, obviously the goal is always to get the next 1,000, 10,000, 20,000. I don't know if it's ever going to be that crazy, but I'm going to keep putting my heart and soul into it. All the knowledge that we learn here and try to broadcast it to you guys so we know. And then we'll just grow the community as much as we can, brother. If you have any of our products on your vehicle and you're posting it online, make sure you hit or hashtag us PBH Equipped. And that way we can see it and we can repost it and help push people to your own channel if you so please. To all the guys that were in here tonight that are contributors, Caleb, Alex, Shops, Nick Meyer, all those guys, thank you for joining us tonight. The cars all look great. I love them all. I'm going to have a great time on vacation. I may or may not be here next week, but I'll make sure to post something up so we all know what to expect. If you guys have any questions or maybe we didn't answer you clearly or need to get back with you, info@pbhperformance.com. That email will come to me, and I'll distribute it to one of our guys while I'm gone so you can get an answer to what you need. pbhperformance.com, visit there as well. And if you want to buy a hat, Frank at pbhperformance.com. If you want to buy a t-shirt, go to pbhperformance.com. pbhperformance.com, pbhperformance.com. Okay, I'm done. Guys, great. Thank you so much. It's raining like hell and storming outside. I got to get rolling. I love you. Have a good night, guys. Thank you.